Hey, everybody, keep checking your due dates. In fact, do we have a due date today? Let me go look. Yeah, the book summaries do say. Hey, everybody, for that book summary, be yourself. Do not try to be all flowery with the language. Just read 20 pages. It doesn't have, and I don't recommend reading the first 20 pages. Look through your book, find the part of the book that most applies to your artwork, and read the 20 pages around that. And then you're basically, it's like talking to a friend. What did you learn from those 20 pages? It's one page, double spaced. So I'm not asking you to write a lot. Just prove to me that you read the book. All right. So that is due today. All the instructions are in Schoology and in for the kids over at Park. It's in D2L. All right. So also, I'll be looking at the article. So you should have turned in an article on Friday. So I'll be looking at those. I've been grading a lot of the park stuff, and I haven't been grading you guys. So I'll be grading you guys uh, very soon, if not today. All right, let's get into this. So much art history, never enough time to cover it all. We left off with we did Madonna with the long neck. All right. We did the weird Cupid and his mother. All right. And you said we left off with this one. All right. So did we look at Titian? I think we did. Yes. All right. So we looked at. All right. So we're done with that PowerPoint. Let's then look at. All right. Did we do the story of the rape of the Sabine women? All right. All right. So let's go run through the art museum. We're going to look at some sculpture. All right, let's start off with a story time. All right, we're going to go to Rome. And this is the early days of Rome. Romulus and Remus have just established where Rome is. Romulus has just killed his brother Remus, and he is beginning to build Rome. And Rome is getting a little bit more populated. However, there's a problem. The population of Rome is all guys. It's about 99% guys, 1% women. And that is a problem if you want your city to grow. Because you grow a city by having families and having children, and you just can't have any children if you don't have women. Also, when guys get together and there's no women around, guys do bad things, or there's no women to keep them in line. I have a couple of classes where it's mostly guys, and the conversations they have is truly disgusting. So it's not a good place for women. And the leaders of Rome say, "Hey, without women in our city, Rome is doomed to fail." And Romulus understands this, and so they go around to there's Rome right there, and they go around to the different cities. Hey, can we marry you women? No. Can we marry you women? No, 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 because it's all robbers and murderers and drunks, and so no woman wants to marry into that. So they can't. They are having a really hard time uh, uh, getting women into the town. So there's a nearby town called Sabine, and Romulus comes up with a plan, and he opens up Rome to a festival. It's the festival of the Neptune Equester, and he invites all the Sabines. And the Sabines are interested in Rome because they have a newly established city. So they want to see this new city, and they want to attend the festival. And so during the festival, with a signal from Romulus, all the soldiers, all the Roman soldiers, grab the women and kill the men, right, that are there. And the Sabines are pretty tough guys. They're good soldiers, but they didn't come to fight. They came to to party and have a good time. So they are not prepared for this event. And so this right here is called the rape of the Sabine women. And I want to remind you that the word rape, if you go to the third or fourth definition of rape, it is an abduction, it's a kidnapping. And that's what's happened here. So they keep the women and they kill the men, and the armies or the cities around Rome, including Sabine, are like very upset and angry. So they put together an army and they go and lay siege to Rome. But Rome has these big fortified walls; they can't get into the city, so it becomes a siege, and it lasts for quite a while, long enough for the Sabine women and the Roman men to start families. And after a while, the Roman men kind of calm down, and the Sabine women kind of fall in love with their newly found husbands, and they start making babies. Now, on the outside, there's a little sub story here. I want to introduce you to this character named Tarpeia, and Tarpeia is a Roman woman, and she goes out of the city walls every day, and she gets some water, and she's able to talk with the leaders of the Sabine army, and she tells the Sabine army that she will allow them in, that she will keep a door open, she will basically betray the other Romans to which she's a part of, for the Sabines, if they give her what is on their left wrist. And she notices that they all have a gold bracelet or a gold band on their left wrist. And so she says, I will open the door and let you guys in if you give me what's on your left arm. So that's the deal that they make. And then when she does the deed, when she opens the door and they come in, they are no longer wearing the gold bracelets on their left arm, but they're wearing their shields on their left arm. And they throw their shields on top of her and trample her, because nobody likes a traitor, all right, even the enemy. So then we have fighting in the streets again. All the Sabines and the Romans are all fighting each other. And that is when the Sabine women go out into the middle and they stop the fighting, because if Romans kill Sabines, that means their family is being killed, right? It is their husbands and fathers and brothers that are being killed. If the Sabines kill the Romans, that means their new husbands and the fathers of their children are being killed. So they want to stop all this violence. So they go out in the middle and they stop the violence. And they're able to strike a peaceful deal between Romulus and Titus. They merge the two cities together of Sabine and Rome, and then thus Rome becomes larger, and Titus becomes a co-ruler of Rome. Now, just a little side note, there is a hill in Rome called Capitoline Hill. And on top of that hill, they throw the body of Tarpeia off that hill, off this, we called it Tarpeian Rock. I tell you the story because we're going to see a painting later on that has this part of the story in the background. All right, so we're going to go to the Palazzo Vecchio. And right next to the Palazzo Vecchio is the Loggia dei Lanzi. And in there is a artwork that we're looking for. Now, I want to remind you that Michelangelo's David was put in front of the Palazzo Vecchio entrance. And then we're going to look at this sculpture just to the right of that at the Loggia dei Lanzi. And just to give you just a little bit of context of where this is, to give you a look around for the loggia, there is the Palazzo Vecchio, and then there is our sculpture that we are walking towards right there. All right, and if you look around, yeah, this one only goes partial. It's not full 360. All right, so I will stop there. And this is our artwork, The Rape of the Sabine Woman. And what I love about this sculpture is how it twists in space. It is interesting from every point of view. And there's a lot of movement and energy and action in this. Do you remember when I taught you guys the difference between stoic and dynamic? Well, this is fully dynamic. You know, she's got her arms out, he's lifting her up. All their bodies are twisted, and it is a very interesting composition. And so, what makes this mannerism, let me read a little bit to you. This is the idea of beauty for beauty's sake in works that showcase their artistic talent, with figures composed of sinuous lines, graceful curves, exaggerated poses, and a hyper elegance and preciousness that delighted viewers. And Giambologna carved it as three figures. And he did not carve this as he wasn't thinking of the rape of the Sabine women when he carved this. This was the story was not a part of his idea. That title was applied to this after he finished it because it looks like that story. All right. I got another story for you. So, what causes the most problems in the Greek mythology? Yeah, this time it's going to be Zeus couldn't keep it in his pants. So, we have King Acrisius and his daughter. I've always called her Diana, but it's Danae. I'm not sure, or Danaea. I'm not sure exactly how it's pronounced. But King Acrisius doesn't have any sons. There's nobody for him to leave his kingdom to. He only has one daughter. And that's a problem because apparently during these times, you can only leave your kingdom to a male heir. And you don't want to leave it. If you die without any male heirs, then I guess it goes to your brother or somebody you don't want it to go to. So he goes to the oracle. He asks the oracle, what am I going to do? And the oracle says he's never going to have a son. And she also says that his grandson will be responsible for his death. Now, he only has one daughter. Where's the grandson going to come from? That daughter, right? So then he becomes super jealous because the grandson is going to be responsible for his death. He doesn't want her to get pregnant. He doesn't want his daughter to get pregnant. So he doesn't like men hanging around the palace. And any guy that is trying to court his daughter, he chases them away, and then he gets so paranoid he locks his daughter up in a tower. She is locked up in a tower, and she prays to Zeus to help her. And Zeus sees her, and yes, he falls in love, and he visits her. Now, you remember that Zeus has to always disguise himself. He cannot be seen as himself because his wife slash sister will find out. So he disguises himself as a ray of sunshine, or it's also described as a golden shower. And he visits her as this light or this golden shower, and she becomes pregnant. So this infuriates King Acrisius because he knows that that baby is going to be the reason that he dies. So, but he can't kill the baby because that's the son of Zeus, and you can't really make Zeus angry that way. So he puts his daughter and Perseus in this tiny little boat, this little boat that's the size of a bathtub, and sends them out to sea. And hopefully the sea will kill them, not him. Like, he's not responsible for that. And but Zeus loves his son Perseus, and he says to his brother Poseidon, "Hey, can you help out Diana and Perseus?" And so Poseidon is able to lead the small craft to a shore where they are found by this fisherman named Dictys. Dictys is a good guy. He's a hardworking fisherman, and he raises Perseus as his own son. And then, so Perseus grows up to be a fine young man. He's, strong and virile and knows how to fight. And he becomes a hero. So this is the beginning of his hero's journey. Polydectes is the king, and Polydectes is the brother of Dictys. And Polydectes is holding a banquet, and he has Diana and Perseus and Dictys joining in this party, and he falls in love with Diana. But he's not a good king. He's a very bad person, and she is totally not interested in Polydectes, and he keeps coming on to her. Perseus doesn't like what Polydectes is doing. Perseus keeps getting in the way of Polydectes pursuing Diana. So Polydectes comes up with an idea, and he says, everybody in the kingdom must give me 4 horses. And he knows that Perseus does not have 4 horses. So Perseus says, hey, I don't have 4 horses, but, what else can I do for you? Because you're the king, and yes, I need to give you something. So Polydectes says, bring me the head of Medusa. You guys know who Medusa is, right? All right. What's unusual about her hair? She's got snakes in her hair. What happens if you look at her? They turn to stone, right? So he thinks that Perseus is going to go try to cut off her head and get turned to stone in the process. And then he'll be done with Perseus, and then he can have his way with Perseus's mother, Diana. But Perseus is favored by the gods. The gods love Perseus for some reason, and they help him. They give him winged sandals that allow him to fly. They give him a super sharp sword to cut off the head of Medusa. They give him a shield with a mirror on the inside that he's able to look in the mirror and see Medusa without turning to stone. They give him a helmet that turns him invisible, and they give him a bag to put the head in, so that the blood of Medusa doesn't cause any more trouble. All right, so long story short, Perseus does cut off the head of Medusa, and meanwhile, while he's off on this journey, Polydectes is being a really bad person and just will not leave Diana alone. Perseus comes back, and Polydectes says, did you kill Medusa? And he says, yes. And Perseus says, I don't believe you. And so, Polydectes says, I don't believe you. And so Perseus pulls the head out of the bag and turns Polydectes to stone. So at the end of this, Perseus gives all the gifts back to Athena, and she puts the head. He also gives her the head of Medusa, and she puts the head of Medusa on her breastplate. All right, also there's other stories where she wears the head of Medusa on her shield. So shield, breastplate, whatever. But that is the Aegis that I talked about with the Trojan War and Achilles. All right, but 15 years later, Perseus is playing in the Olympic Games. He throws a discus, and the discus goes off course, goes into the crowd, hits an old guy in the head, and he dies. And wouldn't you know, that is Acrisius. So the oracle came true. Acrisius's grandson was the result of his death, but not in the way that he thought. So, all right, that's the story of Perseus and Medusa. So we're going back to the Legia. We're going to go right next to Michelangelo's David. We have this sculpture right here. It is Perseus with the head of Medusa. And over here, he has the statue of David, and then there's this statue of Hercules right here. And those are the symbols of the Republic of Florence. And both of them are looking towards, here's Perseus, by the way, and here's the body of Medusa that he's standing on, and he's holding up her head. And the head is looking towards them as if they had the head had turned them to stone. So this is a symbolic of the turning republic to stone. This is a Medici commissioned sculpture. All right, so Benvenuto Cellini is he's a goldsmith, and he's tasked with making this out of bronze. It's a very difficult piece to make, and even on the night that he made this sculpture, it was a very stormy and turbulent weather outside, and he had a fever, and this is a difficult sculpture. So it is a miracle that this sculpture was created. But as the signs of the manner of sculpture is that it is elegant and complex, enigmatic, sophisticated, graceful, and demonstrates great skill. So he is looking down. She is looking at us or at Medusa's body, and her head is pointed towards those statues. What I like is all the guts coming out of her neck. Is that blood, and then her body has blood gushing out there. All right, so that concludes Mannerism in Italy. So we are going to jump into Northern High Renaissance. All right, let's go run through the art museum, and we are starting a new chapter. So go to your next empty page. At the very top in the header, you're going to write chapter 23, or you can write 23. Or you can write Renaissance and Mannerism in Northern Europe. That's a lot to write. It's also a reminder is look at the page number and go to your table of contents. Write this page number next to chapter 23 in your table of contents. And also a reminder, we're doing 5 hand-drawn sketches per chapter. Are we good? Ready to move on? All right. So Northern Europe in the 16th century, there's 2 new things that I want you to be aware of. Art is no longer commissioned by the aristocracy. There's a new wealthy class now commissioning art for their own collections. I think I've talked with this class that Northern Europe and Italy are very different. Italy is completely controlled by the Pope and the Roman Catholic. They're excuse me, they're in charge. And um, so all the art is made for the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, and the Pope. Whereas in Northern Europe, we have a lot of money that is in the hands of a businessman, and businessmen are now um, uh, buying artwork, and that creates a huge difference in art. And the other thing that's going on is the Reformation. All right, listen to this. Monarchs, which is kings and queens and stuff, use their art and architecture to glorify their reigns and to promote a stronger sense of cultural and political unity among their subjects. But wealthy merchants also cultivated art as a status symbol, and in the commissioning and collecting of artworks became less and less the exclusive province of the aristocracy. That means kings and queens. So art is, for the aristocracy, it is a method of propaganda. Right? With rich people buying art, or like the merchants buying art, it is a status symbol. You remember the wedding portrait of Ugolino and his wife. Is that right? I think I butchered that name. I'm having a brain fart. Anyways, that painting was a status symbol. They're showing off their wealth, right? But it's not so much as showing off uh, their um, uh, their reign as a monarch would. Okay, so I have this wonderful Venn diagram showing the basic differences and similarities of the Roman Catholic Church and the Protestant, because we had this thing called the Reformation. And basically, up until this time, the Roman Catholic Church and Catholicism has been the only Christian religion. All right. But now people are starting to think, hey, there's another way to go about this. I have other ideas about religion than just the Roman Catholic version of it. And so they start making their own churches. Those people are called the Protestants. And Protestants is basically all of Christianity that's not Roman Catholic. So, and so in our culture, it'd be like the Methodists, the Episcopalians, the Baptists, and all these other branches of Christianity that's not the Roman Catholic Church. So the things that they have in common is they both believe that the Bible is the Word of God. They both believe that Jesus is the Savior and Son of God. They both believe in spreading the faith, and they both believe in the sacraments, Holy Communion, baptism, and some of these other ceremonies. Those are the things that they have in common, but they have many things that are not in common. For example, in the Roman Catholic Church, the church language is Latin. Now, this is a problem because not many people can read and write, and those that can read and write, even fewer speak and write Latin. So Latin is a language that only very few people understand and can read and write. And that means that they have all the knowledge. If all the books are written in Latin, only they can read those books, then they are in charge of all the information. That's a problem. Protestants believe that the Bible should be written in German if you're in Germany, and in England it should be in English, and in France it should be in French. So everybody should be able to read the Bible. But the Romans say, no, we'll read the Bible for you and we'll tell you what it says. All right. Do you see a problem with that? All right. Because what they're telling you it says may or may not be what's actually in there. All right. They might say that the Bible says, I get to keep all your money. And then you say, where in the Bible does it say that? And because you can't check them. All right. The next thing is the church headquarters is in Rome for the Roman Catholic Church, but there's not really a headquarters for the Protestants. It's a bunch of different churches. There's no one person telling them all how to believe. For Roman Catholics, priests cannot marry, but they have to be celibate. That means no sex for the priests. And Protestants believe that priests may marry and raise families. Roman Catholic Church, only the Pope and priests can interpret Scripture, and the Protestants believe that the Bible, or that everybody should be able to read the Bible. The Roman Catholics believe that the divorce is never allowed, and Protestants believe sometimes, there are some cases when you should be able to get divorced. Roman Catholics, churches are elegant, lots of art and statues. This is a big thing. With the Protestants, churches are plain and simple, as are priests' garments. We're going to go back to that idea of iconoclasm, and we'll get into that in a second. And then finally, the Pope has the authority over kings, and with the Roman Catholic. I want to go back to the elegance of the Roman Catholic churches. They love to show off how amazing they are, whereas the Protestants, their message is you need to live a humble life. So our churches need to reflect how humble you should be. So we don't have a lot of art in there. We keep it very simple, and it's very boring. It's not much art with the Protestants, right? Church-wise, the religious art. Whereas the Roman Catholics are showing off. All right. One of the big reasons is that of the Reformation is that the Roman Catholic Church becomes very corrupt. And one of those corruptions is indulgences. So I want you to write down, let's see, it'll come in later. Indulgence, Indulgence. Indulgence. All right. An indulgence is you have sinned a lot. You want to get into heaven. So you go to the church and say, how can I get into heaven? And the church says, give us your money. So you give them your money. And then the church says, here's a piece of paper that says you're pardoned of your sins. All right. So it becomes a scam to people of giving up their money to the church. So that's what an indulgence is. You get pardoned for giving the church money. That is the Roman Catholic Church. All right. And that is a huge problem. All right. Also, what's going on is that this is a revolution of religion. And, the Pope has a bigger influence than even kings at that time and emperors at that time. So, and that's a problem too. And there's church dogma that's a problem. I don't know if you know what dogma is, but it's, the idea it's my way or the highway. So, either you follow exactly what I say or you're going to hell, and that's where the idea of heresy comes in, that if you say the wrong thing, you're going to get burned at the stake or you're going to get executed in some way. So then it becomes this huge split in the church. We got this meme for indulgences. So the one guy that is leading the Reformation is Martin Luther. And he believed that the church strayed away from the Bible and it's abusing its power, and he disagreed with a lot of their practices. And he writes these 95 theses, or these 95 complaints. And he goes to the door of the cathedral at Wittenberg and he nails these complaints to the door. Others complained about the church too, but Luther had a new invention. He had the printing press. So he had printed this and he distributed it among people. And this makes the Catholic Church really angry. And the other thing that he did that really made the church angry is he translated the Bible into German, French, and English. So now the people have the power to read what is in the Bible. The Roman Catholic Church no longer has control over what is in the Bible. People can see it for themselves. So when you finally get the courage to call someone out for being shady and you do so without stuttering, nailed it. And then Martin Luther starts the Protestant Reformation, says, this is a load of barnacles. And then the church, when they find out, Luther translated the Bible into German. So before the Reformation, the church controlled all the knowledge. And so people took his 95 Theses and printed them in different languages and started to distribute them. Then people could get knowledge without the church. And Luther called, it's another thing that pissed off the Catholics, is Luther called the Pope the Antichrist. So the Pope excommunicated Luther for that. And then Luther called the church the whore of Babylon. And so, again, Catholic churches were very extravagant. Protestant churches are very bare. And so the Protestants tend to think of the sculptures that are common in Catholic churches as idols. And if people are worshiping these sculptures, you're worshiping idols. And so that leads us to idolatry, which is bad. And that leads us to the iconoclasm. So I talked about an iconoclasm last semester that happened during the Middle Ages. And here we have another iconoclasm. And there'll be yet another one that comes a little bit later. But these are the Protestants believing that sculptures and artwork that are in the Roman Catholic churches are idols, and that Romans practice idolatry, which is a sin. So they are destroying paintings, sculptures, stained glass. Groups of Protestant zealots went into Catholic churches in Northern Europe and destroyed Catholic art. This was called Beeldenstorm in 1566. So I have a couple of pictures of people destroying this artwork. And so here is an example of iconoclasm, vandalizing this artwork. Do you guys remember the Ghent altarpiece? Ghent altarpiece was in a church. A group of people came to destroy it. The guards turned them away. A much bigger group came the next day to destroy the Ghent altarpiece, but it was too late. The guards at that church had taken it apart and hid it in different places, and they were unable to find it to destroy it. So, all right, but Martin Luther was okay with iconoclasm. So before the Reformation, there was only one kind of Christianity. That was Roman Catholicism. And Catholics were universal. If you wanted to go to heaven, there was only one choice. And so the effect of Reformation meant that common people could question and educate themselves. And it gave freedom and power to decide their own fate. So you're wondering, okay, so cool. What does the Reformation have to do with art? Well, it broke the Catholic monopoly on art making. And also with iconoclasm, especially up in the north, there wasn't so much art that was commissioned by and made for religious purposes. And so a lot of it was secular, and which we'll look at later in this chapter. And new ways of thinking, a rise of non-religious art, especially the portrait, and non-Catholic themes in art, and the promotion of the printing press. All right, so we will start here on tomorrow. Are there any questions about anything that we discussed today? Yes, get your phones.